Get this figure and more at the Big Bad Toy Store. Links in the description.
No matter what comes next, we'll be okay. Let's kick it up!
I may have kicked it up too hard. Hey, it's Jobby, and today we're taking a look at the Digivolving Spirits number 3, Diaboromon. And this guy can transform into Caramon, but we'll get to that later. And for those of you who don't know, the Digivolving Spirits line is a brand new toy line by Bandai, and they're just remakes and redesigns of transforming Digimon toys that came out in the mid-90s to the early 2000s. And I've actually already taken a look at 2 figures from this line, links in the description. Now, the Digivolving Spirits War Greymon and the Metal Garurumon are new figures, but they were based heavily on existing figures. But Diaboromon here is the first figure in this line to be completely original, unless there was a transforming Diaboromon figure that I wasn't aware of growing up, and that would be a shame because I always liked this character's design ever since I saw him in Digimon the movie. And it is Diaboromon, right? Not Diablomon, as the box would lead you to believe, because Diablomon just sounds stupid. Unless it was the English dub that was stupid for pronouncing the Japanese English. Diaboromon.
Diaboromon.
Diaboromon. Diaboromon. Another reason for subs, not dubs. The painting and the sculpting on this figure is awesome. It's very accurate to the animation model, from the lanky proportions to the bright and appealing colors. But the animation accuracy of the colors kind of stops when you look at his arms. I mean, the dramatic color change from the front of the figure to the back of the figure is actually not too distracting. In fact, this contrast kind of looks cool, but there really is no getting around it. The color shift here is obviously kibble. And speaking of kibble, no, not really. Really, the only major area of kibble on this figure are the shoulders, and these big-ass shoulders do a great job at covering the obvious kibble, but this big block of kibble at the bottom of the palms is obvious no matter what way you look at it. And all this talk about kibble reminds me of how kibble as a concept is now canon, in the Transformers universe at least. Yes, I have seen the trailer for the new Bumblebee movie. It looks okay. Please stop asking. Come on, follow me on Twitter before you ask me stupid questions. And despite those tiny issues of kibble, the rest of the figure looks extremely clean and, as I mentioned before, animation accurate. But what's especially animation accurate is the head. That is, until you get to the back of the hair and... what? His iconic hair metal hair is represented as just a painted triangle. It's very strange. But from most angles, it works. And since we're at the head, I should note that this ball joint was super tight out of the box. It was that kind of tightness that when you turned it, it would make really awful noises and you would feel like you're gonna break it. Yeah, something like that. However, I managed to fix that problem with just the toothpick and a bit of normal dishwashing liquid. You dab a little bit on that, and then you apply it to the tight area, and the dishwashing soap should act as a lubricant to make the ball joint not stupidly tight. This works on any figure with overly tight ball joints, by the way. And once you get that head rolling, just keep in mind that it's pretty sharp. The chin hurts more than the horns, I'll tell you that much. And not only is it sharp, it's a bit cold as well. Other die-cast metal parts include the chest, the elbow joints, and the wrist joints. These die-cast parts give the figure a nice heft, but they also provide tightness in the joints. These metal ball joints are not mentioned at the back of the box. And these tight joints allow the figure to stand up really... Never mind. I can assure you that fresh out of the box, the joints were tighter than they are now. I guess if you keep playing with it, it loosens up the joints a bit, and that does make the figure harder to stand, especially with these lanky limbs, but it is not... It is not impossible. There you go. But if you do decide to give up, the figure comes with an accessory that should help with your problem. You get a stand, and that should cradle the taint really snugly, and I can confirm that the stand works as intended. You also get a clock, which is painted very cleanly, and surprisingly, it's made out of die-cast metal. You can even put the clock on this little groove in the stand, and that just sits there. Doesn't plug in. But once you get it settled on there, it looks nice, and it reminds me of its significance in the movie. From what I can remember, this clock was actually a countdown to a missile launch in the film that the protagonist had to stop, lest there be complete nuclear annihilation. In other words, American foreign policy, am I right? And finally, you get a shorter stand part, which allows for more lower to the ground poses. But popping a squat isn't all he can do. Ball joint at the head can look side to side a little bit and could barely look up and look down. I wouldn't recommend you do this too hard or else you'll chip the paint. And this part just popped off of its ball joint. Ball joint at the shoulder, which allows for rotation. Can't move back that far. Shoulder moves out, but it can move even more out if you get these things out of the way, and there you go. Bicep swivel. Tight elbow swivel. Basically anywhere you see a cut like this, such as here, here, and here, that's a swivel. Double bend at the elbow, ball joint at the wrist, every ball joint, hinge joint here, ball joint at the thumb here, and another ball joint there. And all of these fingers have a ball joint at the base and a ball joint here. So if you really wanted to, yes, he can flip you off. No waist swivel, ball joint at the hip, allows for a high kick, can't move back that far. Beautiful spread. Swivel here. Again, any cut like this is a swivel. Double bend at the knee. Swivel here, up and down, and a pivot. Posability on this guy is great. Yeah, it's pretty limited in key areas like the head and the lack of a waist, but at least it has enough joints in the legs to replicate that one pose that I did at Laguna Beach. You guys on Twitter really got carried away with that one, huh? I love it. So the figure looks better when it's slightly crouched down. I mean, I don't think you see Diaboromon stand up with his legs completely straight, but if you do outstretch his legs all the way, he is pretty damn tall. And you guys know what time it is once the ruler comes out. Here's Madoka Godzilla Prime, the Digivolving Spirits War Greymon, and the Digivolving Spirits Metal Garurumon. And when you put all of these figures together, they look so good. But Diaboromon looks even better with the SH Figuarts versions. And even better than that, let's kick it off! Seriously, at first glance, this figure can pass off as a SH Figuarts toy. You know, if it weren't for the limited articulation and the kibble. But of course, this kibble is here for the transformation. So getting these big shoulder pads out of the way is kind of difficult without popping it off at the ball joint. Of course, there is a way to do that properly, but it's pretty precise. You literally have to follow what's in the instructions, which seems pretty obvious, but just keep it in mind. But if it's too much for you, you could always parts form it. Bitch. So here we gotta close up this shell. A seemingly simple step, but it's stupid hard. What I find that helps is if you push these side panels all the way down, make sure the head is out of the way of the shell parts, and you've gotta compress the legs even more than what the instructions tell you. And with all of that said, it should just close up. The Caramon mode looks great, but who gives a shit about Caramon? Honestly, when I heard they were making a Digivolving Diaboromon figure, I expected it to be Infamon, because I barely remember Caramon at all. From what I remember, he only appears in a few brief scenes, and that's pretty much it. But when you consider the whole point of Digivolving Spirits, which is to go from cute to cool, Caramon instead of Infamon makes more sense. But this ugly bastard is only cute from a certain point of view. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but there's something about it that doesn't capture my heart like Agumon or Gabumon, and I think that has to do something with the eyes. I mean, compare this guy to the animation model. I actually think that looks cuter. Even the drawing on the box looks better, obviously. Look at the eye placement. They're smaller and they're farther apart from each other, so he looks more like a lovable doofus rather than a generic Sanrio character. Not that I have a problem with that. Debatable cuteness aside, I will give it this. This mode is so far removed from what Diaboromon was, and that's really impressive. But again, once you turn it around, extremely kibble-tastic, but at least the major stuff is on the back. Except the hands, there's really no getting away from that. Other than that, the sculpting on this mode is great. All of these stringy bits on the main body are supposed to represent the tentacles that are on the original Digimon. But on this figure, this looks less like a mass of tentacles and more like a cute little ball gown. And that ball gown, once you manage to snap it in properly, holds together really well. Quite satisfying to hold. But what's not so satisfying is how the stand is necessary. Because without the stand, this mode isn't complete. I guess you can cheat it if you do that. And nope, if you think about it, this is technically a parts former. Bitch. And on the topic of the stand, the small stand part and the clock don't really have anything to do in this mode, but they are small enough that if you were to take a bit of lubricant that I received in my P.O. Box video, which is the last video that I did, links in the description, if you were to cover that up, you could properly put it in your... Nah, I don't recommend it. It'd probably get lost. But what's not lost is the ball joint at the arm, hinge joint here, and the arm posability is pretty much the same as Diaboromon minus the individual fingers. But you do get a hinge joint, ball joint, ball joint at the antennas, hinge joint here, nothing at the head, waist swivel. That's pretty much it. For a Digivolving figure, the posability on this guy is pretty good. I guess that's all you need. And all those problems with the cuteness I have with the figure is not only because of the face, it's also because of how tall this thing is. He's not cute and squishy looking like Agumon or Gabumon. With that being said, here's Madoka Godzilla Prime, Agumon, and Gabumon. I would do Caramon's voice, but I don't even know how he sounds. So even with the issues of cuteness and kibble, I can still say that overall, this figure's amazing. And even if you remove the ability to transform, the Diaboromon mode is still a great figure in itself. It's a good alternative to an SH Figuarts version until we do get a proper one of that. I highly recommend this guy if you're already in too deep, or if you're one of the many people who enjoyed Digimon the movie. And if you're wondering why I was so late to review this figure, this guy came out like 2 months ago, it's because the Big Bad Toy Store was also late to the party. The figure is pretty pricey, but if you're looking for a posable Diaboromon figure that happens to be able to transform, I'd say it's worth it. So if you like this video, give me a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and subscribe for more frequent and consistent toy reviews. Let's see how long I can keep this up. So this guy has got me even more excited for the rest of the Digivolving Spirits line, and I just can't wait to get my greasy hands on the next one. But before we get into that,